feel alive. I'm just trying to make you feel something.
Yo, what is up? I am back. Forgive my voice. I am just getting my day going. I mean, I've been up for a while, but I guess this is my first time talking to anybody, so might be a little raspy. First off, I wanted to say a big shout out to everybody that enjoyed The Frequency, episode 5. That was a interesting topic to kind of take a deep dive into. Shouts out to the Patronis. What was it? Rosalia left some wonderful comments, and on YouTube, Krista, I think it was Krista or Crystal, Krista Elman, I think it was, left some wonderful comments, and then A Priori 7, who is a stage 4 cancer survivor, and you know, some of what I talked about with sound frequencies and, you know, the healing possibilities for cancer cells. I read your whole comment. I know that you made a joke and said that you type very long, but every time you type your long comments, I read all of them. So thank you, and I'm glad you enjoyed the episode too. Someone else also said that they had someone in their family that was dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's, and that they would look into sonodynamic therapy, and you know, I'm praying, and hopefully it can help in some capacity. I really enjoy doing these and also looking at the response, because I feel like, you know, these kind of topics, or just this kind of like one-on-one conversation, it inspires like a lot more people to share and talk about things that go on in their lives. So that's pretty cool. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to give myself a bit more grace and put out more of these this year. I intended to last year, but sometimes when things get like a little hectic or just whatever the case may be, I just kind of start internalizing everything around me. I get kind of quiet. I'm quiet by nature, but you know, I just don't want to talk, I guess. And so, but I feel like this is, I feel like these episodes have all had a lot of value, not only for you guys, but, you know, for myself in a therapeutic way, for me to be able to get my thoughts out and stuff like that. So I'll try to give myself a little more grace and be less perfect in my approach, and not treat it the same way I guess I treat music, in a sense, where I can kind of overthink a lot of little details and just get my thoughts out and not over edit it, and just kind of just let it exist as it is, and treat it like a conversation. So before we get started, well, I mean, I guess what I'll say next is starting this next episode. Shouts out to everybody that has supported me in any capacity, you know, free or subscriber or whatever the case may be. But I just want to let you guys know I'm really grateful for, you know, the Patreon and super thanks and super stickers, and just any way that you can support my efforts in a monetary way. It's super helpful. It gives me a lot of flexibility in my decision making on, you know, specific jobs, whether I take them or not. It gives me a lot of leverage too. You know, sometimes when I might get offered to work on something, if I feel like I'm being lowballed, it's easier to walk away from when I know that, you know, I'm running a supported community, and it's a big deal for an artist such as myself to be able to have such a dope community like you guys. So I'm super grateful for that. If you have been thinking about signing up for Patreon but haven't had a chance yet, I think it's the dopest community on the internet. Some really amazing chat rooms, super dope people. And this week, you know, there's a welcome discount for new members. So go sign up if you haven't. If you're able to, I think you'll really get a lot of value from it, and I think you'll really enjoy being around a lot of like-minded people. Something I'm putting a lot of effort into growing more this year, and giving some really amazing content. Coming up shortly, I'm doing like a deconstructed version of my time where I'm showing the session since it's anniversary month. I want to show how I created the beat. There's also I sat down. I have a series where I'm sitting down with different people involved with the Grammys. So the first one that I'm going to let you see is I'm sitting down with someone who just became a Grammy voter, and I actually played him some BTS records, and we talked. We had a good conversation. I actually learned a few things that I wasn't aware of, and it'll be interesting to share with you guys because I think it'll give you guys a lot of understanding as to why or how some of these snubs are happening. And then, of course, me and Bardnell are back at it. We were actually filming an episode the other. We were actually filming an episode the other night, and the LAPD got involved, and so we had to kind of deviate from our original plan, and we shot something else for you that'll be out this weekend. It won't be exactly what we planned on putting out, but it'll be out, and it's still entertaining. And then we'll get back to the rabbit hole really soon. So the reason I brought up Patreon, because technically they're my only sponsor, but also, what I was saying about, giving creatives leverage in many ways. But one way that, I feel a lot of leverage, like I said, is I can turn down associating like my brand or my production abilities with something that I don't necessarily believe in just as an exchange for money. It's making it's good. Like I said, it gives me a lot of flexibility. And a lot of artists don't have that. And so what I wanted to talk to you guys today about is I always see so many, wrong or, just takes on record deals, the music business, and things like that. So I wanted to kind of break down how streaming works and how it goes into like record deals and why we don't see as many new artists kind of like breaking through to that next level to where they can become like a household name as we should. And a lot of it has to do with just bad math. So record deals are traps, basically. New artists are nothing more than scratch off lottery tickets for record labels. Any aspiring artists that are going to listen to what I have to say, you might feel a little bit, just don't let it deter you from like what you are actually pursuing. Like this should actually empower you to maybe remain independent or do things in a way to where you can at least have leverage if you go into a record deal. Now, a record label, they'll tell you that they're investing in your career, but when you really look at the numbers, they just really invest in their own pockets, really. So we're going to strip the emotions out of this for a second and talk just numbers and, how record deals actually work, how much artists actually make, and more importantly, like, why do artists keep going broke while labels keep getting like more and more rich? So, all right, so you're a new artist. You got some buzz, not crazy buzz, but say like you maybe put a video on YouTube and an A&R saw you and thought you were dope. Or let's say an A&R actually like left the office. What a concept. And went out to a live show. What a concept. And discovered a really raw talent, thinks you're amazing, wants to sign you to a record deal. And they say, we believe in you. We're going to invest in your career. Sounds amazing, right? It's like the dream story, right? But let's talk about what that investment actually looks like. So most like record labels, they'll put up, say like they'll do $500,000 for a newly signed artist. The way the money will break down is you have $250,000 of that would go towards A&R, and $250,000 to go towards like your marketing. So what A&R stands for, I know you guys have heard the term before, but it stands for artist and repertoire. So it just really encompasses like everything that an artist needs. So an actual A&R, they're supposed to be in charge of setting up your recording sessions, finding your producers, your mixers, your master engineers, all that kind of stuff like that, right? So out of the 500K, which is a loan, and you have to pay all of it back before you see a dollar in royalties, right? So you think all of this is your money, right? So you get 250K that goes towards that, and 250K that goes towards your marketing and all that kind of stuff like that, right? Out of the 250K, say like you're gonna pay yourself a $100,000 advance. So you're like, boom, I just got a 6-figure check. Amazing. I'll never have to work again. And then you immediately have to give, your manager their cut and your lawyer their cut. So you're probably out, 25K out of that, right? 20% for the manager if it's a good manager, or 15%, and then 5% for your attorney. So out of that 100K, let's say you're down to 75K, and then you have to pay taxes on that. So now you're down to, 60K or whatever the case may be. So that's what you get to put in your pocket. And then you have to take the rest of the money from that, and nothing like sirens in the morning. So you have to take the rest of that and actually make your album. You have to pay for producers, all these things, and out of your marketing and things like that, you got to do promo and ads and playlisting and tour support and content and all of these kind of things, right? So now let's talk about like how streaming revenue like actually works. So say like you are a new artist. This A&R comes and finds you at a cafe where you go perform at. You go sign this deal. You get the $500,000 deal, which is usually and the deal will be like a 1+2. So basically, they're saying like we'll sign you to just one project, and then we have the option to do 2 more with you. You don't have the option to leave us after this one if it works, but we have the option to keep you and make you do 2 more projects, right? So let's say you just actually blow up and you get 100 million streams across your project. Say it's an EP, you get 100 million streams across it, or even say it's whatever, yeah. So when you really look at the math, 1 million streams on Spotify is going to pay, the record label is going to make like $3,500, sorry. From Spotify. Apple Music is going to pay about $6,000 for 1 million streams. Apple Music actually pays way better, but Spotify is a much larger share of the entire marketplace because more people use Spotify. So you're looking at about, just say across both Spotify and Apple, you're looking at about $4,000 in streams, right? So say you did have 100 million streams. That is $400,000 that the label has made. And you would also think that, 100 million streams across my project, like that's super good, like I'm doing really well. But then you start looking at how the label gets paid first. So first off, they're taking 20% off the top for, I'm gonna put this in air quotes, distribution, right? So as some of you know who are listening, and some of you are young and grew up with just streaming. That's wild. But we used to actually go to the store and go buy the albums. Actually, a lot of people who listen to this still actually go buy albums. So back in the day before there was streaming, the distribution fee, I guess, it made sense because they had to get all these records pressed up and you have to get them delivered and get them placement in the stores and all these kind of things. So a distribution fee for the label made sense. In this day and age, it's like, everything is being distributed digitally, and, I'm sure there's probably some costs associated with that and some costs to get things probably placed on the front page of, Apple Music or whatever the case may be. But for them to still be taking 20% out of that off the top as a distribution fee is a little bit weird to me. So maybe somebody with a higher security clearance than I have can explain that to me. But $400,000 You take away 20% of that, that is about $80,000 that's already gone out of the 400,000 from the 100 million streams, right? So now there's 320,000 left, right? The label takes 80% of that and you get 20% of that, because when you sign a major record deal, you are effectively in like a 20-80 split, right? As an artist with no crazy leverage. I mean, most artists are in deals where the split is a 20-80 split. So out of that 400K, 20% gone. Then the label takes 80% of what's remaining and you get 20% of what's remaining because you're in a royalty deal. You are not in a profit split, profit share deal. So the label keeps $256,000. The artist gets $64,000, right? So I'm going to say this again. You did 100 million streams and you only made $64,000. 100 million streams, you made $64,000 out of the $400,000 that, came in. Now, sure, that artist can, if they're getting that many streams and, God willing, they're on the road and getting some shows and they're making some money, hopefully, but that 500K is not a lot of money when it comes to developing and breaking in artists. So, you're going to need more at some point to be able to really, really get your face and really get out there and really be able to get on the road. But here's where it gets worse. The $500,000 investment from the label, you have to pay it back out of your cut. So the $250K budget where your advance came out of and the money that went towards your production and your beats and your mixing, your studio time and all that stuff, that is 100% recoupable. You have to pay all of that back. And then out of the marketing, 50% of that is recoupable. So you have $250K from the side where you took your advance from, and then you have $125K from the side where your marketing came from. That's your money for your content, your ads, your promo, your tour support, like I said earlier. So in total, you have to pay back $375K, but you only made your cut. Remember, you're in a royalty deal. Your cut was $64K that you made from streaming. So $64K minus $375K equals you owing $311,000. You're $311,000 in the red, even though your album did 100 million streams. You are in a deep hole. You are literally in debt to your own record label after having the success of 100 million streams. So you're thinking, okay, but if I'm in debt, isn't the label losing money too? Not really. So if you look at what they made, like they've already pocketed $336,000 from your project, right? They own your masters because you had to sign over your masters in the deal, so they can keep making money off of your music forever. This is through licensing, like putting your songs in movies and TV and commercials and all this stuff like that. None of that money from the master side goes to you. Now, if you wrote these songs, you might make some money on the songwriting side, but that'll be another topic for another day because that has to do with the publishing part of it. But as far as the master goes, you're not making any money off of your music going in movies and TV commercials and video games and all that kind of stuff. And then they can repackage your music in deluxe versions, best of, vinyl, all these different things. They have ways to continue to make their money off of your album being part of their catalog. Meanwhile, for you, you're stuck and you still owe money, and then you can't drop any music without the record label's approval. And if they don't see you as profitable anymore, they're just going to put you on the shelf and move on to the next artist. You are literally stuck. So what you might be wondering now is, well, why do labels keep on signing new artists even if a lot of these new artists are just flopping? And it's because they're not actually losing money for all the reasons I just stated above. Like long term, they're going to keep making money while putting you deep in debt. And it doesn't really matter to them because at the end of the day, like the biggest artists who are, bringing in the most money from their catalogs are the ones that keep these big labels afloat. Your Taylor Swifts and Kendrick and Drake and Bad Bunny and Travis Scott. All the people who stream really really big because they have also because they have big catalogs. These are the few artists that really keep the labels afloat and alive. BTS included, for the places they've done deals at where their catalog has been at. These labels are making money for the long term. Because at the end of the day, this is a catalog business. That's why the bigger your catalog, the more extensive your catalog. You see a lot of artists these days that are not necessarily going for greatness. They're going for market share. I think that, that has been a big part of why Drake has been so successful. But I think it's also a big part of why his product has been so watered down, especially like this back half of his career. It's been like heavily streaming focused. It's not about really, that hasn't felt like to me it's been about him making great art as opposed to like, let me make some bops and let me make songs that people want to stream and let me overinflate these albums by putting 21, 22, 23 songs on an album with a bunch of fillers and just throwing a bunch of stuff out there, hoping that, knowing that some of them are going to stick and just knowing that the more songs you have, people will just put it on because you're you and they're going to let it play. And every year you're going to be one of the most streamed artists because you just have so many songs on DSPs, right? So for record labels, they're not actually losing money. Even if your deal didn't work out, they just literally write it off on their taxes as a business expense. You failing as an artist actually helps their bottom line because they report it as an artist development cost to the IRS, and now they can just pay less in taxes. They can justify signing more artists the next year, and they can just keep gambling and keep gambling and keep gambling until they find the next superstar. And they don't have to really put in like the actual effort because they just try to throw money behind something that might already have steam. That's why a lot of these labels, they continue to sign artists if they have, you got a social media following or you have, a viral moment on TikTok. They want to put their money into things that actually are already moving and could possibly move on their own if they had their own money. They don't want to actually put in the work to develop an artist and really, 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 help mold and shape and create the next superstar in any capacity that doesn't involve money. They just want to throw money at something and see what sticks. And like I said, and because they own their really successful artists' masters, they're still making billions every year off of owning the masters of these big hit makers' catalogs, right? So how can artists avoid like this trap, especially after you really sit down and look at how the math works? Like, how do you avoid getting finessed? And I think the first step to that is owning your masters. If you can, don't sign away your masters. And if you do have to, like, try to negotiate a time limit where your rights revert back to you after 5 to 10 years to where you can make money off of your catalog. But I highly recommend an artist owning their own masters, and just hiring some of the same kind of people that labels hire. You can do your research and figure that out. Like, the labels are hiring people to do jobs. They're outsourcing themselves, so you can find these same people. A lot of people who used to work at record labels, record labels have shrunk tremendously. So you can find people that used to do these jobs at record labels and hire them, to help with your project. Just don't be in a rush to sign away your masters. And if you want to find a dope place to go to, I would suggest somewhere like Empire. Shameless plug. I am signed there as a producer and songwriter for on the publishing side of my things, and also on the label side for any releases that I want to release later this year. They probably will end up being in a partnership with Empire, where I own my masters and I have the flexibility of having a proven company that knows how to market records, helping with that side of it, and really earning the money that way from being, involved in a project without having to own the rights to my music. Because at the end of the day, like, the creators are the ones that are creating these hits, and record labels are just buying up masters, and not really caring about the artist long term. If something works, then great, and if it doesn't, it should write you off and sign more of you next year, while you and your hopes and dreams are just kind of just suspended in time. So so step two, I would say build your own audience first. Labels are really only trying to sign artists with built-in fan bases because to them it's a safer bet. And the more leverage that you have, the better your deal terms are going to be, period. You know what I mean? But also, too, just pay attention to, you know, pay attention to where we're at just as in the world today. Like, I think a lot of people are still focused on just trying to be like this huge star. And to me, and for a lot of the musicians that I know, that's not really why we ever really started making music. Like, we started making music because we love making music. And if you can find a way to have, a upper middle class, like, living situation and being able to do shows and have 400, 500 people come out and come see you, and people who are excited about when you drop music, then you're winning. You know what I mean? You're really winning. Build community. We live in a world today where, everybody kind of feels like they're, famous or relevant to some degree because everybody has a camera phone. Like, user generated content, you can film yourself, put it on TikTok, and something can go viral, and next thing you know, you're the hawk to a girl or the demure person, whatever. There's so many people that just go viral every single year. So everybody feels like they have a somewhat of a shot, even if they might not have like a musical talent. And you have to kind of recognize that that's where things are at. So, and people's attention spans are fairly short. Now, I know I say that as I'm rambling on a microphone, but you can look at it like, instead of trying to be like, this huge superstar, instead of trying to be, Drake, be the voice of a community, like, be part of something that you believe in and build that and bring people along with you. Because what I've discovered through my journey with, Patreon and YouTube Live and just having a channel and stuff like that is that people really do want to support artists. I just think that they don't know how if we don't tell them how they can support. Most most fans just only know that they can, stream the songs or maybe buy some merchandise or go buy a ticket to a show. There's not enough direct connection between the artists and the fans. And you see labels talking about, oh, we need to like have this super fan model and try to engage super fans. But it's like, don't let the label do that, because the reason why these kind of connections work, especially like the connection that I have with the people that support me, is that they can get in touch with me and there's a mutual exchange. Like, I'm a real person. I'm a real person first. So once you bring a label in to try to facilitate that for you, it's going to fall apart. That's never going to work. So I think artists should focus more on building an audience, and don't make that audience just be there just to like, I guess like look at you and praise you, but actually feed into that community and give back to that community, give that community something that they can leave with, something that they can hold on to, So that's my 2 cents on that. And lastly, only sign deals that make sense. So a distribution deal or a profit split is way better than a royalty deal. If any artists are listening to that, you can go look that up, and you can just kind of just go on a deeper dive and really understand what that is. But a distribution deal or a profit split is better than a royalty deal. And then if a label won't give you a real partnership, then keep it moving. Like, you don't need them in this day and age. So the real key to success, if you're going to sign a deal, is to have leverage. And the labels need you to believe that they're the only option. But if you build your own brand, you don't need them. And that is what I am most grateful for from you guys that are listening, especially if you're still listening to this point, is that You guys give me leverage. You guys give me flexibility. You give me leverage. I don't have to go say yes to a situation that might be terrible because I am directly connected with the people that support me, and you all are the people that I want to make music for. I don't want to go make music to try to just make other people appreciate my talent. I want to make people music for the people that I already know that believe in me. And if I keep doing that, it'll just attract more like-minded people. The last thing I want to kind of touch on too is that some of you might ask the question, if these artists, when they go into so much debt with the label, do they actually have to pay like the money back? No, they don't have to pay the debt in cash, but it still destroys their career, and it really just breaks your spirit. Like, imagine like you put out some music, you've had some success, and then say you are building a community to some degree, and that community believes in you, and they're like, when is the album coming? When is some new music coming? We want new music. We want new music. And they, on their end, they know that they can't even put out music because they don't have the label's permission to put out music, and the label won't give them any more budget to go get more, get in the studio with more producers and songwriters and mixers to put that out. So, being in debt with your label can really crack your spirit, just overall. So even if an artist is, what we say earlier, I think it was $311,000 in debt, they don't have to write a check to pay the label back, but the label just won't invest in them anymore because they view you as unprofitable. So that means no budget for the next album unless you renegotiate or you take an even worse deal. No marketing push, so your streams are going to stall because you're not really going to get new fans like the ones that you might have already had from the first go around. They've been waiting on the new music. They get it. They're going to listen to it, but you're not going to really get that push for new people, so you can really build on any momentum. You're deprioritized from the label in general because they view you as a financial liability, so they're on to the next thing. And then eventually you get shelved and you're stuck in a deal with no way to release music and no way to regain any momentum. And, it's just, yeah, they don't force you to pay up, but they have no problem leaving you frozen in time with, no room to grow while they just shift the focus to the next wave of artists that they sign for the next term. And so, labels will lose millions every year on artists who don't become superstars. But that's honestly, and this sucks saying this out loud, but it's part of the business model because it actually benefits them. And like I said earlier, these losses just get written off as business expenses, for artist development. The labels will use this to justify spending millions on new artists. The IRS looks at it as an expense towards growing the business, so they pay fewer taxes. And then the parent companies, like the big three labels, Sony, Universal, Warner, they report these losses to investors as like basically research and development, so necessary R&D, because it's like we're investing money in trying to find the next superstar, right? So losing millions on a new artist actually helps major labels protect their profits in the long run, which is, it's pretty crazy. I think I mentioned earlier why labels are not tripping because they still make money off of their biggest artists. The few artists who blow up, they end up funding the entire system, and every failed artist just ends up being a tax write-off. And like I said before, like new artists are just lottery tickets for labels. Like the real goal of a label is to sign as many promising future talents as possible just to see if like one or two can break through. And the reality is most of them will fail, and that's fine for the label because they only need 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 30 of them to actually be profitable, because the one who succeeds, their masters ends up making the labels millions. And because they approach it with such a 1 out of 20 kind of approach, they're not really putting like the energy and effort into like actually developing a talent. That's why they keep looking for things that are turnkey or like ready-made, just ready to go. And like I said, the ones who succeed make the labels millions and millions, and the ones who fail, they just help lower their taxable income and justify signing more new artists. And this cycle keeps going, and it really only benefits the label. It doesn't benefit the future of music. It doesn't benefit the industry. It doesn't benefit all the artists who are super talented, who go to a record label just for their dreams to die, So this is why artists, just got to try to be smarter and more patient if they can, because a bad deal can literally ruin your momentum. I signed a deal in 2020, off of the momentum of my time being really big, and I actually signed a really good deal. The problem was the company that I signed to got bought by a big parent company 4 or 5 months after I signed my deal, and I was stuck in that deal for 2 years. I wasn't even allowed to produce on other albums, so I had to find little workarounds to be able to work and just to be able to earn money. And it was the worst 2 years of my life, honestly, because it's like they took the thing that keeps me going and it was taken away from me over something that just was completely out of my control. So, just know that the labels don't lose when you fail. They just move their money to somebody else. And artists need to own their masters. Artists need to build an audience, and they need to negotiate any deals that they can from a position of power. And I'm just saying all this because, knowledge is leverage in itself. And so, maybe if you know an artist that's trying to get into the industry, you can share it with them. And I know as fans, I know you guys like, and when I say guys, it's interchangeable. I just mean my homies. But I know you all love to know this side of it, and you want to know more about why these things might have happened to some of the artists that you love. And yeah, this is what happens. This is how an artist can come out and have some fans and then just kind of seem like their whole career just stalls. So I hope y'all got a chance to really take this in, because the industry is kind of built to keep artists broke. And if you don't take anything else from this episode, just remember this. Never sign a deal out of desperation. Knowledge is power, leverage is everything. And I feel like that probably works across the board, not just in the music business. And I know y'all got some thoughts on this, so drop some comments. I'll go through them. And yeah, this is Sleepover. See you on the next one.
Lord, everything you need, come and see a real one. Time for you to feel alive. I'm just trying to make you feel something.